Hey everyone, Adam here, So Was Your Podcast. Got another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Mika Boorem to talk about her new movie. It's her directorial debut, Hollywood.Con. It's this fun kind of Indiana Jones level comedy adventure. It's weird to describe, but what was really cool about it is Mika's been acting pretty much her whole life, so she knows a lot of people, and she was able to call in all those, I don't want to say favors, and I'm sure they were friends and everything, but she was able to call in all these people to get this huge ensemble cast for this multinational giant adventure comedy as her directorial debut, which is insanely ambitious, and pull it all off, which is really awesome. And it was really cool talking to her about her process, really cool talking about her career, how she got to this. Her dad co-stars as her dad in the movie, who is not traditionally an actor, but the guy seems like everything else, a fascinating person in his own right. So it was just a really fun, fascinating conversation, and really cool to see how this all came together. So enjoy the interview. All right, I'm sitting down with Mika Boorem. I hope I said your name right. I should ask before I hit record. Okay. To talk about your new movie, Hollywood.Con or Hollywood.Con?
Hollywood.Con. It's about con artists in Hollywood, so it's sort of like a play on words.
That's what I thought. Okay. I've heard it a couple different ways, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, we were trying to come up, we were like thinking like, well, because when you come up with the name for the movie, like the more different that it is, the better for when people do search engines and whatnot. Of course, we come up with Hollywood.com, the website, but still. So yeah, we were brainstorming on it. And then the other thing, which is so interesting too, which I had no idea about before I started making this movie, was and I don't, maybe this is like a secret I'm not supposed to share, but it's important to have the title of your movie be either like a number or up high, like higher, like up in the alphabet, because if you get too low, then like the idea, or at least the theory, is that people are like, oh, just pick something. So they don't make it cost like H, like, oh, let's want to watch something. We already watched too many trailers.
So you should have picked 01A Hollywood.com.
Exactly. I'll tell you, that was probably in the running when we were going back and forth.
How hard is that? Since we're on it, how hard is it to nail down a title that's supposed to encapsulate this huge thing you've written?
Really hard, especially like, because you want to do something different. If you pick it too close to another title, when people try to plug it in online, they can't find it. So, but I will say, this project, I collaborated with my dad on this. And so, I think he might have been the one he is the one who came up with that. And he was like, I love it. And I'm like, well, what about this one? He's like, no, like, this is it. And there's certain things, I don't know what your experience is with your parents, but there's certain things you're just like, all right, sounds good. And then I was like, yeah, actually that's cool. It's like con artists, but I've had a few people and they're like, why? Why Hollywood.Con?
Yeah, you kind of gave yourself an extra wrinkle there, because not only is it a parent, but it's also a creative collaboration. So you have to kind of give and take on both accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we dive further into Hollywood.Con, if it's cool with you, I always like to ask creative people to go back to the beginning, and you've been working a long time. Are you okay with going back to kind of talk about how you got into it and everything?
Yeah, absolutely.
You started acting, I think, what, was 10 years old?
Seven.
Wow.
Yeah. I was trying to make a joke of that, but I don't know. I was going to say, there's the option, go to school or to get into child labor. But yeah, so I started acting at 7. The first thing that I did, like, I started doing some sort of like catalog type stuff, for like advertisements and commercials and stuff when I was little. And I think like my mom thought that was really cool. And she was like excited about it, because like I was on the back of like the Purina dog chow bag and like all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of progressed into, I got this role in a movie called Education of Little Tree, which was produced by Robert Redford. And then that was just sort of, a super launching pad, because it was the Robert Redford movie. And then also, for me, I just had like a very enjoyable experience because it was a historical piece. So, I was very young, but like I got to learn about what was going on in that time era and like wear the clothes, be in the sets, be in the old cars. And it was in Montreal in the fall. And so it was just a very like wonderful immersive experience. And so I know like, for me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is cool. Like this is, a fun thing to set out and do to sort of, travel these different places. I love with acting, you learn like about these like niche subjects, like just random. Like I did a John Carpenter movie called, this is jumping forward, but I did a John Carpenter movie called The Ward that takes place in a mental institution in the 1950s. So I got to learn about all of these crazy procedures that they did on the patients at that time. And, there's even people who worked at the facility who had this machine that they can hook you up to that kind of demonstrates what different mental scenarios kind of look and feel like to different people. And like, anyway, so like I just, I'm like, oh, this is cool. But so I did the Robert Redford movie. And then from there, kind of just kept rolling into stuff, went on to do The Patriot with Mel Gibson, which was so cool, historical piece too, Revolutionary War. That was awesome to be a part of. Hearts in Atlantis with Anthony Hopkins. Along Came a Spider with Morgan Freeman, which is based off that James Patterson novel. It was like either the sequel or the prequel to Kiss the Girls. And what else have I done? Dawson's Creek, Blue Crush. I was on Ally McBeal. Yeah. House was really fun. House, I got to play a patient who didn't feel pain and was like having delusions. And so she was trying to like jump off like different balconies and stuff. And they had to figure out what was going on. And they had like a huge tapeworm that was in my stomach that got pulled out. That was however many feet long that like stretched out. So that was pretty wild. But yeah, so it's been good. It's been good, but it's been interesting too, because I feel like moving into directing is sort of a natural progression, because acting is so cool and so rewarding. But you're a smaller part of something that, someone else is kind of painting the picture of. Like you're like a paint color, or like a piece in the puzzle. And then with the directing and like producing and writing and all this, it's, much more heavily involved from like the inception. And then, for this, we took it all the way because it's out on Amazon now for Hollywood.Con, all the way to distribution. So like really like having a hand in all these different areas. And that's been cool too, because I learned so much on this project.
I imagine so. Yeah. If you did all that heavy lifting, this was your first feature directing. Have you done any shorts or anything leading up to this?
Yeah. So, so I directed some different short films, which is great. And they're fun. They're fun. I like that art form because it's sort of, you can it's kind of like music videos where you can sort of explore a theme or a tone, but don't necessarily have to have, be like a little bit more like David Lynch, like where things are just sort of like open-ended and kind of odd. But the thing about short films, which is why I wanted to go ahead and make a full feature, apart from it being sort of like the next like natural kind of progression on there, but also with short films, you don't necessarily get it in front of all audiences. Like a movie, even people who aren't like super film buffs aren't, like heavy film connoisseurs, they'll see a movie, but short films I feel like are a little bit more of like a specific audience. So it's nice to have, a movie like Hollywood.Con that is in front of anyone, who gets on Amazon. So it's way more broad, which is cool. But I did that. And then I've done some music video work too. It was actually really cool. We were able to film a music video during the pandemic, which was such like an odd experience because we were like filming like in the bubbles. Everyone's like in their own section. And it was, where are you exactly? Where are you located?
I'm in upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Okay. This was interesting. So we were in Arkansas, on a ranch. We were there. And then we had our crew drove in from California. And then there were people like the musician and all them that came up from Nashville. And so it was interesting because it was just like such a strange thing, because you had the different groups of people, and then like different people's different feelings about stuff too, like, per like COVID and the pandemic.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
and then like if you're like directing and producing and stuff too, you're a little bit of like making sure everyone feels comfortable. So you're like a little bit of a liaison between people also. So it was wild. But that music video is really good. You should check it out. It's called Catch Me If You Can. The artist is Travis Tidwell. And we got it up on Country Music Television, which is fun because it'd be the first kind of bigger release for a music video that I've had. So that was fun. And then we just had it come through, I think it was last week, it's nominated for Music Video of the Year for the Josie Awards, which I'm not fully for music, but for my understanding, it's the largest independent music awards. So it's nominated for Music Video of the Year, which is cool. And
yeah, that's awesome.
September. Yeah, it's in September. So I figure I'll go to the award show. Hopefully everything will be open then. Get me a good cowboy hat.
Yeah, for sure.
Jacket with the tassels. Roll out in there. It'll be a good time.
That's really cool that you got to keep busy and you keep exploring new things and are having a great time with it, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also thought it was really interesting what you brought up about the shorts, where doing a feature-length movie, which is way longer than a short, you're going to get more eyes on it even from casual film viewers than you would a short, even though it's, maybe a 20-minute time commitment. It's funny how it seems almost backwards in that way, but when you point it out, I'm like, yeah, I've never really thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. You really have to hunt down a short movie, a short film.
Yeah. And I feel like, a lot of times too, like a regular audience, they're just, not that interested in sitting like, what? Like, why would I watch a short film? Do I watch 4 of them? Or also, they'll do short films on a lot of like European TV and stuff, but domestically, like here in the States, we don't really have short films on any of our channels that much, So
yeah, I can never think of it. You're right. Yeah.
I feel like there was one show, was it like Mad TV or something? There was one show like back in the day that had a series of short films that they would throw up on there. But
not sure. Maybe National Lampoon. I know they made a lot of varying stuff.
Yeah, National Lampoon.
Going way back.
Yeah.
How'd you get into the music video thing? Was it just you're into music, you wanted to direct, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean that specific music video, we have a good friend who is tied in with they're all tied in with like Dolly Parton's they were part of like Dolly Parton's management before. And so that artist is tied into that whole group. And then we know them, and I mean for our movie for Hollywood.Con too, we've got a lot of awesome music. I think music is so important with stuff. And so that was kind of the same group that has us tied in for our movie. So like the composer on Hollywood.Con is Lendl Black, and he's won Emmys for his musical work. He works a lot with Yamaha. He writes the like Yamaha instruments, where he writes the orchestra music. And then we also have in the movie the Boxmasters, which is the band with the actor Billy Bob Thornton. So the Boxmasters, and they gave us a couple songs for the movie, and then they have their cameo in there, and that was fun too. I love that song, Glendale. Did you catch the lyrics on that?
No, I didn't. Sorry. I mean, I saw the movie. I watched your movie, but I didn't really dial in on the song.
Have you been to Glendale?
No.
Okay, so it's funny. So Glendale's like right outside of Hollywood, but Glendale's like, it doesn't quite have like the street cred that Hollywood does, or like, like the Echo Park or like the Silver Lake, where like people feel like, you know what I mean? They got like kind of a little bit of a cool thing going. So Glendale somehow is just, it's right next to all these spots that people think are cool, but somehow Glendale never got it. And so it's funny because yeah, the Boxmasters, they had this song that's just like, we're not quite as cool as Hollywood, we're pale, we got the pollution. It's funny. And so I knew that somewhere in the movie I wanted to do just sort of like a little bit of like an homage to like a buddy comedy type thing. And so that's why I've got Ben, who's my dad, who's in the movie, and then the Mayan priest, Nino DeMarco, and the two of them when they're coming across those Yuma sand dunes, as they're, without giving away too much, as they're coming across the border, that song that they're singing to is the Glendale song. So
Okay, okay, I see. It all ties together.
yeah, and then like with the Mayan priest being like, I want to go to Glendale, like I don't know, sort of like tongue in cheek, because like no one thinks Glendale. I like Glendale personally, but no one thinks Glendale's cool.
You went deep cuts on that joke.
Yeah. Yeah. But oh my gosh, filming those sand dunes too was just gnarly. Because we those Yuma sand dunes are used for, they're in Arizona and they're gorgeous. They go on for miles, but they're used for off-roading and like ATVs. So if you want them pristine, like we have in the movie, you have to go out there when it's like 110.
No one's out there running, ruining your sand. So,
Yeah.
so you had your dad and this actor just walking on 200-degree sand with the sun reflection, and
Pretty much. And it was funny too, because we had like an ATV that was sort of, that was part of our group that was able to, go around the outside and bring people back. But my dad's so funny. My dad loves to exercise too. And he's like, it's cool. I'll just walk back. I'll like walk back and they're on the thing. And we were like, it's 110. Like, take the ATV back to 1 so you don't die. He's just like, no, I got this. He's like got that sort of Indiana Jones old school adventure spirit.
right. Is that kind of how you tailored him to the role?
Yeah, it was funny. So the movie's actually okay. So the movie's about there's two production companies that are in a race to make the next big mine film, and so you've got the everyone trying to sell each other out of this company and sort of like conning each other, one upping, and then where they go to Latin America and are trying to put everything together for the movie. And so when I initially conceptualized the film, I knew, like, first off, that I wanted it to be a big ensemble piece for the cast, because just like for directing, I thought it would be really rewarding to work with strong actors. But then also I started thinking about like what I had for what I had that I could bring to a movie that would be different and special. And so part of what that was is I have access to good actors because I've worked on all these movies as an actor over however many years. So pretty much all the people in the movie are friends that I had worked with on other films. And then I developed the characters around them. And like, so I just wanted like wacky, weird, well-developed characters that have, strong character arcs and are just like fully developed. So that was like one of the first things. And then beyond that, I was trying to think like, okay, so what else would I like to incorporate on this? And in terms of writing dialogue and like scenarios and whatnot, the whole Hollywood thing, because of growing up on set, I thought that there was something there that would be fun to play into and do like a little satire on like things I've seen or heard or people I've met, and sort of pump up the volume on that. So that's how the Hollywood section came together. And then my dad is a gemologist, so he works with gemstones and he travels across Latin America and speaks fluent Spanish. And so that's where the side to bring in the enchanted piece of jade and the curse on the enchanted piece of jade and the whole Latin America section. And so basically I just figured if we could take the two, because he and I wrote it together, take the two, combine it together, and then you sort of have this like very colorful, a lot of locations, and a lot of wacky characters, and mesh it all together. So that's where the concept of it came from. It was funny though, because I was like halfway through, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so ambitious for an independent film. Like whose idea was it to get all these actors all over the place? They all have work, they're all like working actors, they all have busy schedules. We're trying to film in these sand dunes, it's 110, like going to Latin America. I'm like, oh my gosh, who like what happened here? I was like, we should just place people in one room.
I had similar thoughts watching it that I was like, okay, she's been acting a while, so she knows the business, and it's her first time directing a feature. Okay, it's a comedy, so it'll probably be like around Hollywood and kind of, tongue in cheek, making fun of Hollywood a little bit. And then you're going to these exotic locations and the scope just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And you have all of these incredibly familiar faces rotating in and out. And I was like, wow, you really went for it.
Yeah. Go big or go home, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And we really went through and like tried to make things really special with the movie. So like, for instance, we even went through and like with the color correction on the movie. So when you're in Hollywood, things are blue and cool tones. And then when you go to Latin America, they're reds and these like heavy saturated kind of warm colors. And so that way, when you watch the film subconsciously, since we go back and forth between the two locations mainly, you know where you are. So that was one thing that we put together. And I've got a friend who's a colorist who like worked on awesome movies like Die Hard. Which is the best Christmas movie ever, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the one Christmas movie. But so like I got him to come on board and like help with the coloring on it. Our Foley, which Foley is an interesting thing. Foley's all the practical sounds. So like when the doors open and close, or like people walking, picking things up, drinking, combing their hair, all of that. We went through and we made it more comical and like overemphasized. So like Devin Rattray, who plays Andy Slimek in it, which Devin Rattray, he's an awesome actor. He's done so much. I would say one of his funny, notable roles is he was Buzz in Home Alone with the tarantula. Okay. Yeah, but he's gone on to do so much. Like he was in, he's on the TV show The Tick on Amazon. He's on the Steven Soderbergh show on HBO, Mosaic with Sharon Stone, Russian Dolls on Netflix. Blue Ruin. Anyway, he's done a ton. But so anyway, his character Andy Slimek, who's like the hotshot producer, he's got all the chains on and stuff. And so with the Foley artist, we went through and we made it so like every time he moves, like you just hear them like moving all around. The camel that's in the movie, like the lips on that, like when it's running, we overemphasize that. Paige Howard, who she plays Veronica Lake in the movie. Like when she's talking to me on the couch, when she moves over, like the couch is like extra squeaky. So like that was like another kind of like artesian touch. We've got a family friend who saw the movie. He's an awesome guy. He does that Foley work, and he's from France. And so my dad was actually visiting with him over there, and he showed him the movie, and he was like, "This is great." And so we're like, okay, cool. Like we come out and work on it, So he came out and here for 10 days and we did all that extra Foley work on it. And that guy's like a legend. He still does everything by hand. So like his name is Pascal Mazier. So like a lot of people for Foley work now will use pre-recorded computer stuff because it's easier, but he literally like makes, the sound of wind with like a old pigeon wing. And like makes explosions with like old film and like he's just like a wild character. He's worked on over 200 movies. He did that movie The Professional with Natalie where she's got the little plant Leon. Yeah. Yep. And she's running around. Yeah. And so but it was just wild. So he came out from France, and when he came out from France, he had all these bags, and we're like, whoa, like what are all these bags? And so we brought him over to the post-production sound studio, and he starts opening up these bags, and they're just full of trash. But they're like his special things that make weird they make weird noises like over the years. So he's got like the leather jacket that like makes like the special crunch, the shoes for certain walks. What are the, like on snowboards, like the little buckle strap things. Like he's got that. I don't know. It's just funny. It's really funny. But everything that they do with it too, when he does it by hand, is a secret. So it's passed down almost like a magician, like it's like a protege thing. So he had like his like master that he learned from, and then like it gets passed down. And so now he's teaching his daughter how to do it. And yeah, so when he was in the American studio over here, they have their own Foley artists too. And so the Foley artist was like, wait, how did he do that? What did he do? Which thing did he use? And he was like, like a magician, like, like super secretive about it, like did not want to share anything, which is so funny. So funny. It's a really interesting field that I knew about, but I like, before I did this movie, and it's, that he's a family friend, but still I had no idea about that as much as I do now. And I know that intimately because I just sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the weirdest, coolest job. Because like also like with acting on stuff before, I was always on set, but wasn't necessarily in the post-production to be like, intimately involved with these types of jobs, like with the Foley and stuff that, kind of comes through, or like the color correction, like I was mentioning, like, those are things like as an actor that you're not really, involved with it all. You're not totally privy to like the inner workings of it. So with this, I just like, I got in it all and like, tried to grab like the people that I knew that like do all these things and bring like the best artists that I could find and bring them on board and like, make sure like as a director, like make sure that things are, streamlined and kind of on the same page, but also just like, letting people do what they do if they're good at what they do, they're like, oh my gosh, and just sort of taking a back seat to it.
That's absolutely fascinating. Like I'm just we could probably talk an hour just on the Foley thing. That's insane that you got this really good old school guy to do it the old fashioned way. It's got to be like with like a special effect, like the practical always ages better than the digital. So it's got to be the same thing where that hands-on approach just has this real feel to it.
I think so. I think yeah, I just think it adds in like an artesian handmade factor to something really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, he was even doing he can do an explosion noise with like film and his mouth, and like I'm just like, I mean, it's just like wild. What a crazy career.
Yeah, it's one of those things that everyone who watches a movie knows, if you think about it, that somebody put that sound in there on purpose. It's not just picked up by accident, but you don't think of how deep it goes.
It's so odd too because I never fully paid attention before to this, and I think probably because like when I was watching a movie, I'd be more focused on the direction or the lighting or the acting. But if you take a look at a movie now, it's crazy how much the sound is turned up on different things. So like if somebody puts on a pair of sunglasses, if you're in real life, like you don't really hear that, but like in like the movie, it's the close up, it's like, like, like there's these noises, and if they weren't there, it feels more empty,
Mm-hmm.
um, but you'd have no idea, like. Yeah, you'd have no idea. Like it was something I never thought about before, and then I was like, oh my gosh! And now when I watch all these movies, like watching James Bond, yeah, he's putting on his glasses, or he's like taking a sip, and it's like, I'm like, that's like tenfold. Like, it doesn't sound like that when people drink things, but it sounds amazing, coming out, especially if you're in the movie theater, coming out of your, all the speakers, surround sound. James
Yeah,
Bond.
that's fun. It's one of those like kind of I wanted to say unforgivable, but I know that's not the right term. But it's one of those things that you only notice it when it's wrong.
Yeah.
You only notice the absence or if it's way too high and it's like, what is this? But yeah, that's really funny that there's this whole sound editing category that's almost forgotten by just the general viewer if you just go press play and sit back.
Yeah, I never really thought about it, to be honest. Like, I never really, I knew that there was a lot of work that was done on sound, but like specifically like the sound effects for, even people like walking, sitting in the chair, like there's so much. But yeah, for the comedy on Hollywood.com, that was the thing is um he was like, let's overemphasize stuff and like make it bigger. So I was like, yeah, like sure, who might argue? Let's do it.
Yeah, it kind of gave it almost like a live action cartoon kind of feel like that. And you had this like really kind of bubbly score that went under everything. So I
Yeah,
thought that was cool. It made it feel like overly alive.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our influences for the movie too is I love my dad. I think my dad loves it too. Is Romancing the Stone.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, which is funny too though because we were cracking up because who did we tell? We were talking to somebody, and I think maybe we were in Arkansas, which makes it even funnier. But I love Arkansas. My dad's originally from there. But anyway, we were talking to somebody, and they were like, "Romancing the Stone." Like with a father and a daughter. Just a romantic movie, and we're like, what? No.
Like, not exactly like Romancing the Stone.
Yeah, we're like, no, just like the adventure part. And like, people are, yeah, the adventure. There's the enchanted stone, and people are trying to fix things, and things are full. No. Yeah, it was so funny. So funny.
Your dad being I don't think you said geologist, but it's something in that realm.
Gemologist.
Gemologist. And you being an actor, obviously you acted, and that's natural for you at this point. How did he feel stepping in front of the camera?
He's kind of the natural ham. So I feel like he did a good job at it. He was natural. I feel like he like dug it too. And yeah, it was fun. We have it's still comedic, but there's the one scene in the movie where he's getting that 60 minutes interview. And or no, I'm sorry, we call it a 16 minutes interview. We have that was the other thing too that I think was kind of fun with the movie being an independent. It's sort of like you can push the envelope with it being an independent, and I feel like audiences kind of look for that because you're not doing like a formula film, and you don't have 1,000 people at a studio telling you like, oh, like this is going to be commercial or this and that. So so we did these like kind of smaller homages to things like the 16 minutes one, and then there's an homage in it to the Twilight Zone and to Pretty Woman, and just these like little Easter egg things that we did throughout, but that we wouldn't have been able to do, if it's a studio movie. Like it's harder to, because there's so many opinions on it. And then like if we had access to something like the camel, then we're like, yeah, like let's rewrite, get the camel.
Write a camel and do it.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, we need that. That ups the production value. That's cool. I love the camel. But yeah, it was funny though. So like for his 16 minutes interview, I wanted to give him like a real acting experience. And so I have a friend of mine who is a like very well trained, trained out of, the East Coast and trained out of the UK actor who's like super old school with all his stuff. And so before my dad's crying scene, I was like, just go in and like talk to him for an hour. And so he like went in and like, did like the whole sort of more like method actor type thing where he talked about like the character and the character's background and like why he would be sad about it and all this stuff. Which was fun for me because I felt like I was like really giving my dad the full on experience. But a lot of stuff like he just knows how to, like all the flying plane stuff and like hot wiring the airplanes. Like he's a pilot too, so a lot of that doing his thing.
He does everything.
yeah, a lot of that's just him hitting his stuff out there. So yeah, that was fun too. The like the airplane crash scene, all of that. So that's like in the stuff with the plane, that's sort of the same thing too. We're like, well, we got access to the plane. You're a pilot. Let's get that in there. Let's add another layer in there. Why not? Same with that wildebeest. We're like, well, we got access to the wildebeest. Let's write it in. That'll be cool. People want to see a wildebeest. I want to see a wildebeest. We tried to fit all the dogs in too. We got I was so happy we got the little dog in there that plays my dad's dog. That was my dog for, she passed away now, but that was my, and the movie's dedicated to her too, but that was my little dog for like 19 years. And so she was like a little bionic dog. She like went blind. We got her a new eye in there, and her little legs went out. We had like a little walker for her. But yeah, so we threw her in the movie. We've got the I was really excited too. In Latin America, when we're in the gypsy shop, that dog that's in there is a Cholo Cinquintle, which is like the Mexican hairless dogs that are really rare. And they've got their own kind of cool thing too, where when they're all black, like that one is, they're supposed to, like in the Mayan culture, they're like a liaison like into the afterlife. And so they like take people, when they pass away, they escort them into the afterworld. So, we were able to get one of those in the movie too. Yeah. Put it in there. That's amazing. I love that. That's, what fun. Yeah. So we got that dog in there too.
And the dog at the end? Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, should I?
The dog at the end?
Yeah.
Which one's at the end? Who do we have? I know we have the little potbelly pig at the end, Princess. We got her in there too.
You pull one out of a box.
Oh yeah, that's my little dog Penny that lived for 19 years.
Oh, I thought that was earlier. Okay.
She's she's my dad's dog throughout. She that little dog, those dogs are cool. Brussels Griffins, George Lucas based Ewoks off of them.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, so they're like little Ewoks. I actually I worked with one of those, and which is how I ended up getting that one. I did this movie called Carolina, that had Shirley MacLaine on it, and Julia Stiles and Alessandra Nivola, and they had one of those little dogs in it, and like this little dog was so cool. She was in all these different movies. She was like in Good as It Gets and Sweet November. Like, I was just like, wow, it's like a real little acting dog. I got myself the same little Ewok, but
you really stacked like every scene. It sounds like it's really cool.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we tried to just get as much in there as much as in there as possible.
Yeah, you really packed it.
Zombie stuff too. Everybody loves zombies, like just zombie light, not like full zombie movie, just enough, just enough to have some fun with it. Yeah, that was pretty cool too. That was a good time. We had fun with our locations too, because we filmed in Texas, we filmed in Arizona, we filmed in Mexico, California, and then a little bit in Guatemala. So you're just like all over the place with it. And so that was interesting. Like for the wedding scene, like we filmed that in Texas. And so there was a funny story with that too, because when we filmed in Texas for the wedding, we had our location fell through. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we're like trying to figure out, but it was still like a week or two out from when we were filming, and we were just there trying to like finish putting everything together. And we were having dinner at this Mexican restaurant, and my dad was talking to the owner, and he was like, a wedding? You can shoot a wedding here? Like, and we're like, okay. And so he let us shoot the wedding in the back of the restaurant. And I was like, oh, wow. And he was like, yeah, you can shoot it tomorrow. We were having dinner, and he was like, you can shoot the wedding tomorrow. And my dad was like, yeah, we'll do it. Like, this is great. We're going to go ahead. We'll get it out of the way. And I was like, but we don't have any wedding attendants. Like, no, we need wedding attendants. And it was funny because the owner was like, well, my employees are like zombies. You can go ahead and use them anyway. And then I was like, all right, well, I mean, this is like independent filmmaking. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll find like a local theater. There's got to be a theater around here. Even like or like a high school drama class where like these kids would like love to get over here and, get their face painted up like zombies and like get involved and stuff. And so I start calling around and I'm like trying to put it together, because we're shooting this the next day. And I get a hold of like what I think is a theater, and I'm talking to this lady and I'm talking to her for a while, and she's like, well, wait, what is it? What's it about? And I'm talking to her, and I think that I'm going back and forth with this theater. And it turned out I was like, wait, but the question she was asking didn't fully sound like a theater. And so I was like, well, wait, what is this? And she's like, this is the local Dairy Queen. Would it be okay if my husband and I came by? Because we'd like that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Bring the whole staff. So it was funny because, that wedding party is, you've got the Dairy Queen staff, you've got the restaurant staff, like everybody coming together on it.
That's awesome. You just roll into town. Everyone wants to be part of it because it's not something that most people get to do. So it's fun. You can find volunteers.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that's kind of, because like in California, people are, probably a little bit, they're like, oh, this causes me traffic. Like,
Yeah. It's regular business over there.
Yeah, this causes traffic. I don't like that. But like with the other spots, people are like, yeah, okay, like that'd be cool. That's, that's a fun story that I can add into my toolbox of life stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Life experience. Did you find it difficult to direct and be in virtually every shot of this movie?
At first I, cause it was interesting, because I feel like, the director sort of like, I feel like is sort of like, gosh, I don't even know what a good analogy is for that. But basically like when I've been acting on stuff, you sort of know that if there's something wrong, they'll let you know. So when you're directing yourself, there wasn't anyone where I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, is this going good? I'm like, oh, like, all right. And I think the thing with acting a lot too is, a lot of it's like instinctual, but you're still trying to hit specific plot points or storylines or character things to make a progressive character arc or make like a progressive narrative. So there's certain things that you want to move through, and so, I was like, oh my gosh, like who's going to tell me? But what I ended up doing was just relying on the other people because, the cinematographer, Robert Murphy's awesome. Like I super respect his opinion. I think he's great. And then the other actors that I was working with and stuff. So I kind of just would do the work before, like the prep work of where I thought the scene, like what we needed to get out of the scene, because, I think generally speaking, each scene should be moving the story forward. Like if you have too many repeating scenes of like the same tone in a movie, you kind of like get stuck in places. So, I think some of that's, but generally speaking, like you should be accomplishing something that moves it forward, whether it's just, a couple of beats that are going to set up something with a relationship later on or like whatever. But, so I would kind of narrow down what those couple of things as to, and I think that's something with like writing a script that sort of helps with that too, is, why that scene exists in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So like narrowing down, be like, okay, this is what needs to get accomplished here. And then kind of handing over those different ideas to either the other actor or the cinematographer, and then just checking in with them to make sure that I hit those beats. And so that kind of like kept things streamlined for me. Because the other thing with it too is what a lot of people do when they direct themselves on these bigger films is they'll watch playback on the monitor. So, but that's going to eat up so much time. Like if every time, especially like if you had a small cameo, then probably not. But like, otherwise, every time you film something, if you have to watch it back to make sure that you think it looks good, like, oh my gosh. And then also, I was thinking on top of that too, which I'm sure other people wouldn't have a problem with. But for me, I'm like, all right, so if I get to watch everything back, then that means the other actor probably should get to watch everything back too. So if we're both just watching everything back, it's going to take forever. And then I also too, you don't know, some days like, I think most actors, that we worked with on this, everyone's like very like, trying to move stuff forward, but you don't know if somebody's like, they're like, oh, like, I don't like the way my hair looks on that. Like, yeah, and you're like, no, we don't have time to do it again. But like, bring hair over, like, you don't know, like that kind of stuff can really end up holding you up when, you know. So, but yeah, it was funny. But I also like, I will say, like, so yeah, I act in this, which is cool and it's fun because it's worked out well too, like also for like telling people about the movie and promoting and stuff because I'm available. But that was also sort of why I ended up acting in it too, because I was scheduling all of these other actors that are working actors. Like, we've got Brian Krause in it, which Brian Krause, he's been in a ton of stuff, but he was like Leo the White Knight and Charmed. And then, like I said, we got, Billy Bob Thornton with the Boxmasters, with their cameo, Tom Arnold, like all these different people. And so, because I was directing, I'm available.
You're there.
I'm already there. So I'm like, well, it also worked out well too, because it was one of those things where if we had scheduled people and scheduled stuff and for whatever reason, they had to move stuff or cancel stuff or something came up, whatever, I was available to shoot something. And so we could keep moving, the project forward at all times. And it just made it easier,
Yeah, that all makes a ton of sense. And it's a lot of stuff that I logistically didn't put together myself. So that it all makes a lot of sense that if you had to move your schedule, your lead is on set. There's not a question of, are you in that day? So it just seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was more than I initially thought, but I'm also like super excited about it too, because I feel like that's like something kind of, fun that I can throw in the toolbox. So,
yeah. Now you've done it.
That I'm like, so wait, so the next thing that I direct, I just show up.
Yeah, just one job, really.
I just show up. It is funny though, because for the director, you're first one there and last one at the end of the day too. So, and then if people want to, if you want to check any of the footage or watch stuff afterward, well, I guess the cinematographer, there's other people who are there first and last also. But I just mean like compared to acting, because a lot of times, like if you're the lead, it's different. Then you could be there a real long time or whatnot. But if you're just, another part in there, like you just show up for your part and you leave. Like,
yeah.
Show up, get beautified, hang out for a little bit, do your lines, eat some good food. Where's Crafty? They leave. Directing, you're like on there all day. And then they're like, we lost the location. Rewrite. We lost the location. We got to figure out a new one immediately. The actors are arriving. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you had that responsibility too, writer and I guess kind of producer.
Yeah. So, but it was fun. It was a good time. We had a good time with the project. It's nice having it out now too, and in front of people and like, and hearing people's experiences with it and whatnot. So, yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, have you got to watch it with an audience?
Yeah, we did a sneak screening of it. So our original plan for distribution was we also wanted to do something different in terms of like a regular like distribution plan. And so we had done a press tour through Mexico, and our plan was to release it in theaters in Mexico. And so, we were going to release it like in over 3,000 theaters in Mexico. And then we wanted to bring it to the theaters in the US after that, which usually people do the opposite. They'll release in the theaters in the US and then they go international. But we thought it'd be fun with all the Spanish in the movie and stuff. But so what happened though was when we were going to release it, the pandemic. So then we started brainstorming, and then that kind of like led us more into streaming, because of people like there's so much that people have already watched on streaming, and like people are dying for all the new content. But sorry, I kind of like circled away from your question, but I'm circling back.
No, you're absolutely right, because I was going to ask about that too. Is I feel like it's a good time to release because everyone is at home watching everything, and you can only rewatch a sitcom so many times. You need fresh content.
Yeah, absolutely. But to circle back, we we did a sneak screening of the movie in Arkansas, and that was a total blast. That was like, but that was before the pandemic because we were, we did a sneak screening there, and it was fun. We did, there's an audience reaction video for it that you can find online. And so we did it in Arkansas, which is more of a conservative state, but we did it in a very liberal town in the conservative state. And so we just packed this 1,000-seat theater with people from all walks of life. We had like grandmas, we had like hillbillies, we had drag queens, we had like everybody. It was so fun. And we had some zombies that we had that walked down the aisles of the theater before the movie. And yeah, it was a total blast for a sneak screening. We made it kind of more like like a little bit of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show type, audience participation type thing with it, which I think kind of lends well to the movie because the characters are so wacky. Like we've got so many like weird characters, and that's like with the actors in the movie too. That was one of the things is like I developed the characters with them, so I like wanted them to do something that's against their typecast that would be like fun and like weird for them to do. So like Tom Arnold as the drug lord. That's pretty fun. Yeah. LJ, which is actually interesting though. So he just came out with right now on Discovery Plus, his sister is like the meth queen of Iowa, I think, or the drug queen of Iowa is what they're calling her. So it's funny because that just came out. Yeah, it's like
Wow.
a series. Yeah, so that's funny because I'm like, all right, so Tom is, they're in the Americas.
Yeah.
Over the Americas with their cartels. He's a right. He played my dad on a TV show for 2 years when I was like 10 on the Tom Show on Warner Brothers. And so that's when I started putting this together. I was like, Tom, you got to do a cameo. Like, I need you to jump in. It's gonna be fun. And then he was like digging it. He was like, all right, drug lord. I could do that. So
yeah, he's got a great cameo too.
Yeah, he does. And then Chad Roberts, who plays his son, I love him in this too. He was on Modern Family, and I forget, Tom played his dad in another movie too. I can't remember what it was, which is funny because I didn't know that, but
that's funny. Well, I could sit here and hold you up all day, and I appreciate your time, so I don't want to actually eat up your entire day. It sounds like things are going good, the release going good, so that's awesome. I wish you the best of luck with it. Is there anywhere else you want to point people, your socials, anything else you want to get out there?
Sure, yeah. So you can check out more stuff on the movie on our website, Hollywood.Con.net, and that's got some like behind the scenes photos and like pictures of the animals in the movie and fun stuff. And then on social media, people can find me just under my name, which is Mika Boorem. It's pretty much on all social medias that way. So,
well, thanks again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Oh, and everyone. So Hollywood.Con is on Amazon.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks. I'd like to thank Mika Boorem one more time for coming on the show to talk to me about Hollywood.Con. Hollywood.Con is available now. Check it out. Really cool movie. I think one of the best ways I can describe it for Kevin Smith fans is this kind of like a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, in that Kevin Smith had a long career. He got to call all his friends to come in and play in small parts and pop in here and there. And Mika kind of did the same thing with this, though the two movies are tonally very different. But it's just kind of that cool, everyone's pulling together to make something work kind of feeling, and it's great. We have a lot more interviews, a lot more new movie coverage, working on new things all the time for the channel, so please make sure you like and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss out. So Is Your Podcast can be found every single week without fail wherever you get your podcasts. So Is Your Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month you get multiple monthly bonus shows. Sorry about the cat. SoIsYourPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All the accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I released a comic book at the beginning of this year. It's called Social Studies. It's a day-in-the-life comedy comic about the high school experience, all the ridiculousness and drama that goes with it, and we take it and stuff it all through the prism of the 90s cartoons that we grew up on and inspired everything that we're doing. You can check that out at socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.